Good afternoon, my wonderful students. Welcome to Basic Science class with Teacher Peace Adinaka Chiku. Trust you are all doing good at home. In today's class, we are going to be discussing relationship between organisms in the same habitat. Remember, the other time we discussed habitat. You still remember what habitat is? Habitat is a place for what? Living organisms, a home of what? Living organisms. We talked about the different types of habitats, where we said that we have two major types of habitats, the terrestrial and what? The aquatic. And we made mention of the different kinds of each of the major type of what? Habitats. So for today, we are going to be discussing relationship between organisms in the same habitat. Okay? So before we go deep into the topic, let's take the lesson objectives for today. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to 1. Mention and explain the relationships that exist between organisms in the same habitat. 2. Give at least 2 examples of each of the relationships. So the relationship between two kinds of organisms that last over a period of time is what we call symbiosis. Symbiosis, the relationship that exists between two kinds of organisms. When we mean two kinds, the organism must be what? Be different. Let's say cat and rat, dog and cow, or maybe cow and what? Sheep. So the relationship is what we term symbiosis. Okay, so we are going to look at the different kinds of what? Symbiosis. That is special interactions. Relationship has to do with what? How the organisms interact, how they do what? Feed. Okay, so there are 5 major types of symbiotic relationships. The first one is what? Predation. Second, parasitism. Third, competition. Fourth, mutualism. Fifth, commensalism. We are going to take them one after the other. Now, this relationship that we are talking about can be harmful or they can be what? Beneficial. We are going to start from the harmful relationship. And the first one we have here is parasitism. Parasitism. When we say that something is harmful, that is to say that one of the organism will be what? Harmed at the end of the what? Association with the other organism. Okay? So parasitism is a close association between two living organisms of different species, which is beneficial to one and harmful to the other. So in this kind of relationship, one does what? Benefits, while the other is what? Harmed. We have two what? Kinds of parasites. We have 2 kinds of parasites. But before we go into talking about the kinds, you have to know that the organism that benefits is what we call parasite. The benefiting organism is called the parasite, while the harmed organism is called the host. The organism that is harmed in a parasitic relationship is called the host. So let's now talk about the kinds of parasite. The first one is ectoparasite. Ectoparasite. Whenever you hear the word ecto, it's talking about what? Outside or outer. Okay, so ectoparasites are parasites which live on the outer surface of the host. Examples are a hair loss and what? Ticks. There are other examples. Okay, the second kind of parasite is the endoparasite. Endo, inside. So endoparasites are parasites that live within a host. They live inside the organism that they are causing harm to. Okay, examples of endoparasites are worms such as roundworms, hookworms, as well as tapeworms. All these, or most of them, we have them inside our body. We have tapeworms in our stomach, right? Now, can you see this picture displayed on the screen? Can you see? This is what? A tick. A tick on the body of a dog. You can see. So the tick is causing harm to the dog. The tick is a parasite, while the dog is the host. This one is what? A lice. Okay. Now, this is hookworm. Hookworm living inside the body of an organism. As you can see here, it is causing great harm to this particular person. Okay, you can imagine when you have hookworm living inside you. It's very dangerous. Okay, the second symbiotic relationship we are going to talk about is predation. Predation. This is an interaction in which one organism kills another for food. One organism kills another for food. In parasitism, there is no what? Killing, in as much as the other organism can be harmed, but most times it does not lead to death. But whenever you hear predation, it's talking about what? Death. One of the organisms involved must do what? Die. So, the organism that does the killing is the predator, while the one that is killed is the prey. Prey. Examples: lions feed on sheep, hawks on chickens, cats on rats. Can you see the picture here? What's the name of this animal? Can you see what it's eating? It's eating what? A fish. It's a polar bear. Okay, so that's what predation is all about: killing another organism for food. Let's see more pictures. This is a tiger. What is it eating? It's eating a sheep. Okay, this is an eagle feeding on a frog. You can see that. So they kill and then feed on the organism. Remember, the one that does the killing is called the predator, while the one that is killed is called the prey. So in this diagram, an eagle is the what? This eagle here is the what? The eagle is the predator, while the frog is the prey. Hope you are following. The next is what? Competition. Competition. That's the third one. This is not second, please. The third one. This is an association where organisms struggle with one another for limited resources in the habitat. That is to say, the resources available for the organisms involved are not what? Enough for them. So you see them doing what? Struggling. That is where survival of the fittest comes in. Okay, everybody will want to get. I want to get food. You want to get. I want to drink water. You want to drink too. Okay, examples are cows and goats competing for available grass in the same field. It may lead to insufficiency and harm to both organisms. Remember, we are still talking about the harmful relationships. Okay, living organisms compete over water, food, mates, sunlight, space, etc. And competition can be intraspecific or interspecific. It is intra when it is what? Within the same habitat, and it is inter when it's what? Between two different what? Habitats. Okay, can you see what's happening here? This cow is fighting with a goat. Who is going to win the battle? Okay, here we have goats and cows grazing on the same field. Grazing on the same field. Here there will be what? Competition. Okay, before you know it, they will start fighting. That is what competition is all about. Whoever that wins will do what? Eat the food. Can you imagine? That is competition. Remember, it is what? A harmful relationship. It is not beneficial. Okay, now let's talk about beneficial relationships. Beneficial relationship. The kind of relationship in which one or even both benefit from each other. The first one is mutualism. Mutualism. Mutualism is a symbiotic relationship where both organisms benefit from each other. That is to say, I gain from you, you gain from me. Okay. Example: honeybees and flowers clownfish and sea animals. Honeybees and flowers. The honeybees will help in pollinating the flowers, right? Whereas they feed on the nectar of flowers. The same way, clownfish will help in maintaining the sea animals, okay, and thereby feeding on what? On the sea animals. It is a mutual, there is mutual benefit, okay? Nobody is losing. None of the organism is what? Losing. Are you following? This is a honeybee feeding on a flower, okay? Remember, ants are what? Agents of pollination. So from what you are seeing here, pollination is taking place, okay? The second picture here is clownfish and sea animal in a mutualistic what? Relationship. The next one we're going to talk about, this is the second one, not the first, please. This is second, not first. Commensalism. This is an association between two organisms in which one benefits and the other derives neither benefit nor harm. So in this kind of relationship, only one gains, but the other one does not suffer loss, okay? The other one is not harmed in any way. It's just that here only one organism gains or benefits, okay? An example of such relationships are remora fish and shark, cattle egret and cows. You are going to see the pictures now. Can you see? This is a shark. The big fish you are seeing here is a shark, and these tiny ones are what? They are what? Remora fishes. They follow shark everywhere it goes. Can you see how they are following this shark? They feed on what? The crumbs that falls out of the shark's mouth, okay? Whereas the shark is not what? Harmed in any way. The second one you are seeing here is what? Cattle and cattle egrets. This is a cow. This one is a cow. You can see how the egret is perching on the cow's body. So what do? As the cows are feeding, the cows will be doing what? Raising butterflies, grasshoppers for the egrets to feed on. You can see that. So it is a kind of what? The egret benefits from the cow, whereas the cow suffers no loss or harm. You see what we are talking about? So only one benefits, okay? So we call that they are what? They are in a commensal what? Relationship. So that is all for today. Remember, we are talking about the relationships that exist between organisms in the same species, and we talked about different kinds of symbiotic relationship. We said that relationship can be harmful or beneficial. We made mention of the harmful ones and the ones that are beneficial, and we also gave examples of each one. So this is where we'll be ending our lesson for today. But before we go, let's take this assessment to evaluate ourselves to see if actually we achieve the lesson objectives. The first question here is, mention the 5 symbiotic relationships that exist among organisms of the same species. This is not of, please. That exists among organisms in the same habitat. Mention the 5 symbiotic relationships that exist among organisms in the same habitat. The second one, give 2 examples of the relationships mentioned above. So the ones you mentioned in number 1, you give examples, okay? Now take this assignment. Take down this assignment. The first one is, differentiate between endoparasite and ectoparasite. The second, define symbiosis. Now look at this. You are going to play this little game. The question is, what do I eat? What do I eat? You are going to match the animal to eat food. We have bat, garter snake, bald eagle, bobcat, bullfrog. And on the other hand, we have snowshoe hare, mouse, earthworm, mosquito, grasshopper, and fish. So you are going to match the animals on the left hand side to the animals on the right hand side. You must make sure that the animals on the left hand side is actually feeding on the one matched on that is on the right hand side. Hope you get the assignment very well. Okay, this is where we are going to end for today. Remember, I'm still your basic science teacher, Miss Peace Odinaka Chukwu. Goodbye.